They sent me to kill the dread of Galaxies. I chose to stand beside her. Deathworld legends, the galaxy had many words for fear, but none were strong enough for the name they whispered in silence. She was called the dread of Galaxies. Whole star systems went dark after her passing. Ancient empires erased their own records to forget her. Fleets that challenged her never returned, not even as debris. For centuries, her name was used to frighten young species into obedience. If a world rebelled, the elders would say, "Be careful, or the dread will notice you." No one truly knew where she came from. No one alive had ever spoken to her and survived. Until the day the galaxy sent a human to kill her. Humanity was new, too new. Barely 3 centuries into spaceflight, they were already considered dangerous. Not because they were strong, but because they adapted too fast. They learned alien technology in years instead of generations. They survived environments that killed others. They came from a world with unstable weather, crushing gravity, predators, and constant natural disasters. A death world. So when the Galactic Coalition finally admitted they could not stop the dread, they looked toward humanity, not with hope, with calculation. The mission was presented as an honor. A single human operative would be sent into the Forbidden System where the dread was last seen. He would carry a weapon designed to destabilize her energy core. The scientists did not know if it would work. Most believed it would not. But that was acceptable. If the human failed, at least the dread would be distracted, delayed, maybe angered enough to remain in one place while the galaxy prepared evacuation plans. The human chosen was named Elias Rook. He was not a hero, he was not famous. He was selected because he had survived things that should have killed him. A collapsed colony dome, a reactor breach, a failed jump that left his ship drifting for weeks with no rescue signal. He endured. Before launch, Elias stood alone in the preparation chamber. The weapon case sat locked beside him. The Coalition representatives spoke through a holographic screen, their forms tall, thin, and nervous. "You understand the importance of this mission," one of them said. Elias nodded. "I understand I'm not expected to come back." There was silence. Then another voice answered, colder, "Your sacrifice will be remembered." Elias did not reply. He had heard that phrase before. It usually meant we are done caring. The jump carried him beyond mapped space. Stars thinned, sensors failed. Even the background radiation felt wrong, like the universe itself was holding its breath. The Forbidden System appeared without warning. A single dim star. Fragments of ruined megastructures orbiting it like broken bones. The remains of fleets from dozens of species drifted silently, preserved by the cold. Elias felt a tightness in his chest, but he kept moving. His ship detected a massive energy signature near the star. He guided the vessel closer, expecting an attack at any second. None came. Instead, his scanners picked up a figure standing on the surface of a shattered artificial world. No ship, no army, just one presence, impossibly dense with power. Elias landed at a safe distance. His suit sealed automatically as he stepped out onto alien metal scorched by ancient battles. She stood ahead of him. She was not what he expected. No towering monster, no shifting nightmare shape. She was tall, humanoid, her form wrapped in dark armor that looked grown rather than built. Her face was visible, calm, almost tired. Her eyes glowed faintly like dying stars. She watched him approach. "You are far from home," she said. Her voice was steady, not threatening. Not curious, simply stating a fact. Elias froze. The mission brief had never mentioned conversation. "You know why I'm here," he said carefully. "Yes," she replied. "They always send someone eventually." He tightened his grip on the weapon case. "Then why didn't you destroy my ship?" "Because you came alone," she said, "and because you are afraid but not hateful." Elias did not know how she could tell. Maybe she didn't need to. "You are human," she continued. "From a death world." He nodded slowly. "I have been watching your species," she said. "You survive where others break." That surprised him. "If you've been watching us, why let the galaxy suffer?" Her gaze shifted to the distant ruins. "Because the galaxy decided long ago that my suffering did not matter." Elias took another step closer. The alarms in his suit screamed warnings, but she did nothing. "Every fleet that came here," she said, "came to kill me. Everyone fired first. Everyone called me a monster before they learned my name." Elias hesitated. "What is your name?" She looked at him again, and for a brief moment something like surprise crossed her face. "I no longer use it," she said. "Names were taken from me when I was made into a weapon." Made, not born. The word settled heavily in Elias' mind. The galaxy fears you, he said. They should fear what they created, she replied. But fear is easier than guilt. Elias remembered the briefing images, burning worlds, silent systems. He remembered how carefully the Coalition avoided explaining why she attacked those places. Why didn't you wipe them all out? He asked. If you're as powerful as they say, she looked away, because destruction does not heal what was done. Silence stretched between them. Elias felt something inside him crack. He thought of Earth's history. Of humans being called dangerous, savage, too violent to trust. Of how often fear was used to justify cruelty. Slowly, he set the weapon case down. Her eyes flicked to it, but she did not move. They sent me to kill you, Elias said, but they didn't send me to understand. He straightened, heart pounding. I want to know the truth. For a long moment, the dread of Galaxies said nothing. Then she extended a hand, palm open, not in threat, but in invitation. If you listen, she said, you will never be able to return to ignorance. Elias stepped forward and placed his hand in hers. The energy that flowed through him did not burn. It did not tear him apart. It showed him memories. He saw laboratories the size of cities. Scientists from dozens of species working together, afraid of something beyond their control. He saw her creation, her mind bound to machines, her body reshaped to survive anything. He saw wars she was thrown into, enemies she was ordered to erase. He saw the moment she refused an order, the moment she was declared a failure, the moment the galaxy decided it was easier to call her a monster than admit what they had done. Elias stumbled back, gasping. They lied, he whispered. Yes, she said softly. In the distance, space twisted. Coalition ships began to arrive, dozens of them, weapons charging. They are here for both of us now, she said. Elias looked at the approaching fleet, then at the being the galaxy feared most. And he made a decision that no briefing could have prepared him for. He stepped forward and stood beside her. The Coalition fleet spread across the void like a wall of steel and light. Their ships formed precise attack lines, weapons charging in perfect rhythm. From their perspective, the situation was clear. The dread of Galaxies stood exposed, and a human operative was dangerously close to her. Elias felt the pressure of their targeting systems even through his suit. His instincts screamed at him to move, to run, to do something. But he stayed where he was, standing beside her on the broken surface of the artificial world. They will not listen, she said calmly. They never do. They might, Elias replied, not if they think this is just another execution. A channel opened without warning. A tall Coalition commander appeared as a flickering hologram, his species long-limbed and pale, eyes fixed on the scene below. Human operative Elias Rook, the commander said. Step away immediately. Your proximity compromises the mission. Elias looked up at the ships, then at the dread. She did not stop him when he activated his own transmitter. No, Elias said. His voice echoed across the open channel. The mission was based on lies. A ripple of unease moved through the fleet. The commander's expression hardened. You are experiencing psychological interference, the commander replied. She is manipulating you. She didn't need to, Elias said. You did that yourselves. The commander ignored him and turned his gaze toward the dread. You are surrounded. Surrender and your termination will be swift. The dread lifted her eyes to the fleet. Her voice carried easily, even without amplification. You created me, she said. You used me, and now you fear me because I survived. Several commanders spoke at once, their voices overlapping in agitation. Orders were exchanged rapidly, weapon systems intensified. Elias felt the moment slipping away. If you fire, he said loudly, you will prove everything she showed me. The commander paused. You have seen nothing but deception. Elias took a breath. Then let me show you. He reached into his suit and pulled out a small data shard, one he had copied during the memory transfer. He uploaded it into the open channel, bypassing standard filters using human encryption, tricks the Coalition never fully understood. Across the fleet, screens lit up. They saw the labs, the restraints, the experiments, the orders stamped with Coalition seals. They saw her forced into wars she did not start, sent to break enemies who had already surrendered. They saw the moment she refused to continue. They saw the vote. Weapon unstable, terminate project, blame entity. The silence that followed was not empty, it was heavy. That data is fabricated, the commander said, but his voice lacked conviction. Check your own archives, Elias replied. The parts you forgot to erase. The dread watched the fleet carefully. She could feel the shift. Fear was still there, but something else had entered it. Doubt, a smaller ship broke formation, then another, not retreating, just hesitating. The commander's tone sharpened. This changes nothing. She remains an existential threat. She is only a threat because you keep trying to kill her, Elias said. You taught her one lesson over and over: defend yourself or be destroyed. A weapon platform powered up brighter than the rest. The dread moved. She did not attack. Instead, she stepped forward and raised one hand. Space itself bent, forming a barrier between the fleet and the shattered world. Energy beams struck it and dissolved harmlessly. I will not strike first, she said, but I will not die quietly. Elias felt the ground tremble beneath his boots. He realized then that she had been holding back for centuries, not because she was weak, but because she did not want to become the monster they called her. Stand down, a different voice cut in. Another commander, older, his species marked by ritual scars. If even half of this is true, we cannot proceed like this. Arguments erupted across the command network. Alliances fractured in real time. Some ships powered down weapons. Others charged them higher. Elias leaned toward the dread. Can you hold them if it comes to that? Yes, she said, but many will die. He swallowed. Then let's give them another option. He opened a tight beam channel toward a distant signal he had activated minutes earlier. The response came faster than he expected. Space rippled again, differently this time. Sleek ships emerged from jump points with human design signatures. Not massive armadas, but compact, efficient vessels moving with practiced coordination. The coalition fleet reacted instantly, sensors flaring. Human forces have entered the system, someone shouted. The lead human ship opened a channel. A woman appeared on the screen, her uniform plain, her expression focused. This is Admiral Reyes of the United Terran Defense, she said. We are here under a mutual defense claim. The coalition commander stared. You were not authorized. We were invited, Admiral Reyes said, glancing briefly toward Elias' position. By one of our own. Elias felt a tight knot loosen in his chest. He was not alone anymore. Admiral Reyes continued, we are not here to fight unless forced. But if you attack the being known as the Dread of Galaxies, you will be engaging humanity. A murmur swept the coalition channels. Humanity was new, but not insignificant. Their ships were fewer, but their combat records were unsettlingly efficient. The Dread turned slightly, studying the human fleet. You came quickly. We don't abandon our people, Elias said. Then he added, or those who don't deserve to be hunted. For the first time, something like warmth touched her expression. Negotiations began in chaos, threats. Demands, accusations. Humans were accused of arrogance, of interference, of siding with a monster. Admiral Reyes responded with calm precision. We reviewed the data. We verified it independently. You committed crimes, then erased the records. You expect us to accept this? The original commander demanded. No, she said. We expect you to stop pretending this is justice. As hours passed, more ships powered down weapons. Some withdrew entirely. Others stayed uncertain. The Dread remained still, conserving energy. Elias stood beside her, refusing to move. What happens if they decide to fire anyway? He asked quietly. Then the legend becomes truth, she said, and the galaxy will finally have the monster it always wanted. He looked up at her. I don't want that. Neither do I. A final message came through. A coalition council vote rushed and unstable. Ceasefire approved. Temporary stand-down enacted. The barrier around the shattered world faded. Weapons powered down across most of the fleet. The commander's image reappeared, his face tight. This is not forgiveness. This is delay. Delay is better than genocide, Elias replied. The transmission cut. The fleet began to pull back, slowly, carefully, like predators unsure if their prey was actually the hunter. When the last ship vanished into jump space, silence returned. Elias exhaled shakily. That went better than expected. The Dread looked at the empty sky. It will not last. They will argue. They will scheme. Fear does not disappear in one day. I know, Elias said. But now they know you're not alone. She turned to him fully. You risked your species for me. He shrugged slightly. Humans are used to being called dangerous. Might as well earn it for the right reason. She studied him for a long moment. The galaxy will not forget this. Neither will we, he said. Far away in human space, messages were already spreading. Footage, data. A truth the galaxy had buried was now loose, and for the first time in centuries, the Dread of Galaxies was not standing alone against the universe. She was standing beside humanity. The system did not return to peace after the fleets withdrew. It entered a strange, waiting silence like a held breath that might break at any moment. Human ships stayed. They did not advance or threaten. They formed a loose perimeter far from the shattered world, engines idle, weapons cold but ready. The message was clear. Humanity was not there to conquer, but they would not leave either. Elias remained on the broken surface beside her. The dread of Galaxies stood at the edge of the artificial world, looking out into the dark where the coalition fleet had vanished. For the first time since Elias had met her, her posture seemed uncertain. "They will return," she said. "Some to talk, some to kill." Elias nodded. "That's how humans do things too. Arguments first, fists later." She gave a quiet sound that might have been a laugh. "You are strange," she said. "Your kind sees danger and steps closer." "We learned that running doesn't always help," Elias replied. "Sometimes you have to stand where it hurts." In orbit, Admiral Reyes watched the system closely. Reports flowed in from human intelligence, faster than she expected. Across the galaxy, the leaked data had already caused shockwaves. Old alliances were arguing. Junior species were asking questions their leaders did not want to answer. Archived records were being reopened, and some were mysteriously disappearing. The truth was spreading faster than anyone could control. The Coalition Council called for an emergency assembly. Not all members attended. Some claimed communication failures. Others claimed political unrest at home. A few simply refused. Fear was no longer united. A small diplomatic vessel approached the human perimeter. It carried no weapons and broadcast surrender codes. "They're sending someone down," Admiral Reyes informed Elias through a private channel. Elias looked up at the dread. "Are you okay with that?" She considered it. "If they come with lies, I will know. If they come with fear, I understand it." The vessel landed carefully on a stable section of the artificial world. A delegation stepped out, representatives from 3 species. They moved slowly, their body language tense but controlled. Elias noticed they kept their distance from the dread, but not as far as others had in the past. That alone was new. "We come to speak," said one of them, a being covered in fine metallic scales. "Not to judge, not to condemn." "You come late," the dread replied. "Yes," the delegate admitted, "and we come ashamed." Another stepped forward. "We did not know the full truth." "You chose not to know," she said calmly. The words struck harder than any weapon. The delegates lowered their gazes. Elias watched closely. He had seen humans do the same thing when faced with their own past mistakes. The first step was always uncomfortable honesty. "What do you want?" Elias asked. The scaled delegate answered, "A path forward that does not end in extinction." "Then stop treating survival as a crime," Elias said. The talks lasted hours. Painful questions were asked. Clear answers were given. The dread did not raise her voice once. She spoke of what was done to her, but she did not demand revenge. She spoke of the worlds destroyed, but she named the attacks that came first. By the end, the delegates were shaken. "We will take this back to the council," one said. "It will not be easy." "It never is," Elias replied. When they left, the dread turned toward Elias. "You speak like one who has fought this battle before." "We have," he said, "with ourselves." That same day, something unexpected happened. A distress signal appeared at the edge of the system. It was weak, old, barely functional. Human sensors picked it up first. Admiral Reyes frowned as the data came in. "That signal shouldn't exist," she said. "It matches a classified coalition project, one that was supposedly shut down." Elias felt a chill. "Another weapon?" The dread closed her eyes briefly. "Another mistake." The signal came from a drifting structure, ancient and damaged. As human ships approached, they found survivors inside. Not soldiers, not scientists. Children, not children by human standards alone, but young beings from multiple species. They were alive, kept in stasis pods, barely holding power. Elias stared at the images transmitted to his visor. "What is this?" The dread's voice was quiet. "They were candidates, failed attempts to recreate me." The truth hit like a physical blow. "They tried again," Elias whispered. "Yes," she said. "After I escaped, they decided the problem was not the weapon. It was that I developed a will." Human crews moved fast. Pods were stabilized. Medical teams worked without asking who the children were supposed to become. When the survivors were safely aboard human ships, the galaxy changed. There was no justification left. Public outrage exploded across neutral systems. Junior species demanded answers. Some coalition leaders resigned. Others vanished. The dread watched the rescued children through a shared feed. Her hands trembled slightly. "They will fear me even more now," she said. "They will say this proves I must be destroyed." "No," Elias said firmly. "This proves you were right to stop them." Humanity made a decision that same day. They would protect the survivors, not hide them, not weaponize them, protect them. Admiral Reyes broadcast the declaration openly. "These lives are under human protection. Any attempt to claim them will be considered an act of aggression." It was the first time humanity drew a clear line in galactic politics. Some laughed, others remembered Earth's history and stopped laughing. The Coalition Council fractured, member states withdrew support, military unity collapsed. Old enemies within the Coalition began accusing each other, and in that chaos the Dread was no longer the greatest threat, she was the greatest witness. Elias stood beside her as stars shifted overhead. "You could leave," he said. "Disappear again, no one would blame you." She looked at the human ships, at the rescued children, at him. "I have run long enough," she said, "and I am tired of being alone," he smiled slightly. "Humans are very bad at leaving things unfinished." She met his gaze. "Then this is not just my stand." "No," Elias said. "It's ours." Far across the galaxy, a new phrase began to circulate in whispers and broadcasts alike. The Dread of Galaxies had chosen a side, and humanity had chosen to stand with her. For the first time, the galaxy had to face a terrifying possibility. Not that the Dread would destroy them, but that she might survive long enough to tell the truth. The galaxy did not collapse all at once. It fractured slowly like glass under pressure, each crack spreading from the same truth. The truth that the Dread of Galaxies was not a monster. The truth that the Coalition had lied. Across hundreds of systems, broadcasts replayed the footage of the stasis pods. Children from many species, suspended in cold silence, built not to live but to be shaped. The images did what centuries of fear never could. They forced people to look. Protests broke out on core worlds. Minor species demanded independence from Coalition rule. Old veterans spoke publicly for the first time, admitting they had followed orders they never questioned. Some leaders tried to deny everything. Others blamed dead predecessors. None of it stopped the momentum. In the Forbidden System, human ships expanded their presence. Mobile habitats were deployed. Medical stations activated. Supplies arrived in steady waves. Humanity was not building a fortress. They were building stability. Elias watched it all from the shattered world, standing beside the Dread as he had since the first confrontation. "They are afraid," she said, sensing the distant unrest. "Fear makes people reckless." "Yes," Elias replied, "but it also makes them honest when lies stop working." The first attack came without warning. A Coalition splinter fleet, acting without council approval, emerged from jump space on the far edge of the system. Their ships were older models, heavily armed, crewed by loyalists who believed fear was still the answer. Human sensors caught them instantly. Admiral Reyes did not hesitate. "All units, defensive formation only, do not pursue." The splinter fleet opened fire. Energy beams tore through space, aimed not at human ships but at the shattered world itself. "They are trying to force my hand," the Dread said calmly. She stepped forward. The void bent again, but this time not into a simple barrier. The space around the incoming fire twisted, redirecting the energy harmlessly into empty space. The display was precise, controlled. Human ships returned fire only to disable. Engines failed. Weapon systems went dark. One by one, the splinter fleet drifted powerless. The battle ended faster than anyone expected. When the last hostile signal faded, Elias realized something important. She had not destroyed a single ship. "They wanted you to prove their fear," Elias said. "Yes," she replied. "I refused." The captured crews were treated as prisoners, not enemies. Humans provided medical aid. No executions, no revenge. The galaxy noticed. More delegations arrived in the following days. Not soldiers this time, but historians, ethicists, and legal envoys. Species that had once voted for her destruction now asked for access to the truth. The Dread spoke to them all. She spoke of consent taken away, of identity erased, of being used as a solution instead of being asked a question. She did not demand punishment. She demanded acknowledgement. A tribunal was proposed, not a trial of the Dread, but of the project that created her, of the systems that approved it, of the silence that followed. The idea shook the galaxy more than war ever had. "You would place yourselves on trial?" Elias asked one envoy in disbelief. "We must," the envoy replied. or admit that our laws only protect the powerful. The tribunal was held in neutral space. Humans insisted it be public, recorded, accessible to all species, even those outside the coalition. The Dread attended in person. She did not wear armor. She wore simple clothing provided by human designers, neutral and unthreatening. Still, the room fell silent when she entered. Elias stood behind her not as a guard, but as a witness. Testimonies followed. Survivors, scientists, soldiers, some spoke with shame, others with cold justification. When it was her turn, the Dread spoke plainly. "I was created to end wars," she said. "Instead, I became a reason to start them. When I refused to obey orders that targeted the innocent, I was labeled defective, dangerous, disposable." She looked at the assembled leaders. "You feared me because I reminded you of what you were willing to do." The tribunal lasted weeks. By the end, several species formally withdrew from the coalition. Others issued public apologies. Reparations were discussed, though no one pretended they could undo what was done. For the first time in galactic history, a living weapon was recognized as a person. The ruling did not please everyone. A final faction remained. Hidden, quiet, planning, they struck not with fleets but with deception. False reports spread rapidly, edited footage. Fabricated evidence, claims that the Dread had secretly influenced human leadership, that the rescued children were already being trained as weapons. Some believed it. Riots broke out on border worlds, trade routes closed, fear tried to rise again. Humanity responded the only way it knew how, with transparency. Every human facility opened its doors to inspection. Neutral observers were invited. The children were shown learning, not fighting, healing, not training. Elias spent time with them when he could. They were scared, confused, but alive. Real. One asked him once, "Is she angry?" Elias shook his head. "She's tired, but she cares." The child nodded, satisfied. The final confrontation came not in space, but in law. The remaining coalition hardliners attempted to declare the tribunal illegal and issued arrest warrants for the Dread and several human officials. Humanity refused. So did most of the galaxy. The warrants were ignored. Trade resumed without coalition oversight. Defense pacts formed independently. The coalition, once the center of galactic power, became just another alliance. Standing on the shattered world, Elias watched distant stars flicker as jump lanes realigned across the galaxy. "You changed everything," he said. "We changed it," the Dread corrected. She looked at him. "I once believed I existed only to destroy. You showed me another purpose." He smiled faintly. "Humans are very good at surviving bad ideas." A message came through from Admiral Reyes. "The tribunal is over," she said. "The verdict stands. You are free." The word hung in the air, free. The Dread closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had changed, not power, but weight, as if something heavy had finally been set down. "What will you do now?" Elias asked. She looked at the stars, at the fragile peace forming between them. "I will guard what they tried to repeat," she said. "I will make sure no one builds another me." Elias nodded. "You won't be alone." "No," she said. "I won't." Across the galaxy, a new understanding settled in. Humanity had not conquered anything. They had stood beside something broken and refused to let fear decide the future. And that terrified the old powers far more than any weapon ever could. The galaxy did not become peaceful after the tribunal ended. Peace, Elias learned, was not something that arrived all at once. It was something built slowly, while everyone watched each other closely, afraid that the old patterns would return. But something had changed forever. The coalition no longer spoke with one voice. Some of its former leaders faded into history, remembered only in court records and public apologies. New alliances formed, quieter and more careful. Decisions took longer now. Questions were asked before actions were taken. Fear was still there. It simply no longer ruled alone. The forbidden system was no longer forbidden. It became a place of warning and learning. Ships passed through under strict rules. No weapons charged. No secret experiments allowed. The shattered artificial world remained, but it was no longer a symbol of terror. It was a reminder. The Dread of Galaxies chose to stay. She did not claim power or territory. She did not demand worship or obedience. She positioned herself at the edge of known space, where forgotten projects and hidden facilities once thrived. She watched the shadows where mistakes were born. She became a guardian, not appointed by any council, but accepted by those who had learned what fear without understanding could do. Elias stayed with her longer than he planned. At first, he told himself it was temporary. Debriefings, reports, recovery, but days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Humanity respected his choice. No orders came telling him to return. Admiral Reyes sent only one message. "You did what we hoped someone would do one day," she said. "You chose who we are." Elias spent time helping build the small outpost near the shattered world. Humans and others worked together. Engineers, medics, teachers, people who believed that protecting life was more important than controlling it. The rescued children grew stronger, not as weapons. As people, they learned languages. They laughed awkwardly at first, as if unsure laughter was allowed. They asked questions about stars, food, and stories. Some asked about their pasts. Those conversations were gentle and honest. No lies. The Dread watched them often from a distance. "They will fear me when they grow older," she said once. Elias shook his head. "They already know who you are. They don't need myths." She considered that. "Then perhaps the galaxy will change faster than I thought." One cycle later, a signal arrived. Not a distress call, a greeting. A small exploration fleet from a young species requested permission to enter the system. They had grown up hearing two stories, one of the Dread as a destroyer, another of her as a protector. They wanted to see the truth. The Dread allowed it. She stood openly as their ships approached. No armor, no raised power, just presence. The visitors did not flee. They bowed. Word spread. Over time, more came, not in awe but in curiosity. Scholars, pilots. Survivors of wars once blamed on her. Some cried when they met her. Some apologized. Some simply thanked her for stopping. Elias noticed something important. She listened. She never corrected them with anger. She let them speak. Let them heal. The galaxy slowly rewrote its stories, not to erase the past, but to understand it. Years passed. Humanity's reputation changed as well. They were no longer just Deathworld survivors or fast learners. They were known as the species that stood beside the unkillable and refused to step away. Some called them reckless, others called them dangerous, most called them necessary. Elias aged slowly, visibly. Humans did that. The Dread did not. One evening, as they stood watching distant stars, Elias spoke quietly. "I won't be here forever." She nodded. "I know. Does that bother you?" he asked. "Yes," she answered honestly. "But I learned from you that loss does not make connection a mistake." He smiled. "That might be the most human thing you've ever said." She looked at him. "You taught me that being strong does not mean standing alone." When Elias finally chose to leave the system, it was not sudden. He prepared others to take his place. Humans and non-humans alike. People who understood restraint as well as strength. On his final day, the outpost gathered. The children, no longer children, stood tall and confident. Some hugged him. Others saluted in ways borrowed from many cultures. The Dread stood beside him as always. "Will the galaxy be safe?" Elias asked. "It will struggle," she said, "but it will not repeat this mistake easily." He nodded. "That's all anyone can ask." As his ship prepared to depart, he hesitated at the ramp. "You were never the Dread," he said. "You were the warning." She inclined her head. "And you were the answer." The ship lifted off and vanished into jump space. Time continued. The Dread remained. She intercepted hidden projects before they could grow. She spoke to leaders who feared what they did not understand. Sometimes she used force, but only when no other choice remained. Even then, it was controlled, measured. Legends changed again. They no longer spoke of the Dread of Galaxies. They spoke of the Guardian of the Quiet Edge. And always in those stories, there was mention of a Deathworld species that had arrived not with armies, but with a choice. Long after Elias Rook's name faded into history books, humanity's decision did not. When the galaxy faced new threats, new unknowns, new fears, it remembered, not that humans were the strongest, but that when the universe sent someone to kill a monster, humanity asked first if the monster had been created. And when the answer was yes, humanity stood beside her. That was the legend that endured, not of destruction, but of defiance against fear itself.